Angel Reese just got the boot from Unrivaled, and nobody wants to talk about why. The league that made her their poster child for Season 1 just erased her from existence like she never happened. No press release, no explanation, just gone. And here's the kicker. Multiple sources are now confirming this wasn't about money or scheduling conflicts. This was personal. The same player who called herself the first ever Unrivaled champion won't even get an invite back for Season 2. What really went down behind those closed doors that made them decide she wasn't worth the headache anymore? Before we dive into this shocking mess, hit that like button if you think Unrivaled made the right call, or drop a comment if you think they're making a huge mistake. Trust me, what you're about to hear will change how you see women's basketball politics forever. The silence around Angel Reese's exclusion from Unrivaled's 2025 roster speaks volumes. When the league dropped their Season 2 lineup earlier this month, every major name was there except one. No injury report, no scheduling conflict announcement, nothing. Just a glaring absence where her name used to dominate every headline. Sources close to the situation are now revealing that team executives held multiple closed-door meetings specifically about the Reese problem and whether her drama was worth the clicks she generated. The verdict was unanimous. She had to go. But that wasn't the whole story. What really sealed her fate happened during those infamous playoff games last season. While her teammates were fighting for a championship, Reese was nowhere to be found on the court. She literally FaceTimed into the celebration after they won without her. Think about that for a second. The self-proclaimed face of the league couldn't even show up for the most important games of the season. Teammates were reportedly furious, but they kept it professional in public. Behind closed doors, though, different story entirely. The pattern didn't start with Unrivaled either. Over in Chicago, the Sky organization has been dealing with similar issues throughout 2024 and into this year. Her mysterious injuries that somehow cleared up just in time for brand deals and social media appearances. The constant technical fouls that cost her team momentum in crucial moments. The turnovers that piled up while she was more focused on her next Instagram post than the actual game. One anonymous Sky player recently told reporters that the locker room atmosphere completely changed whenever Reese decided to actually show up, and not in a good way. What happened next would shock everyone in the basketball world. Internal documents leaked this January show that Unrivaled's viewership dropped by 67% after that first weekend of Reese-centered promotion. They went from 300,000 viewers to barely scraping 100,000. The league spent millions promoting her as their main attraction, flooding social media with her highlights and trash talk clips. 31 million views across platforms. But those viral moments didn't translate to actual fans watching games. Sponsors started asking uncomfortable questions about why the drama wasn't converting to dollars. The marketing department's analysis was brutal. Every time Reese created controversy, engagement spiked for about 48 hours, then crashed harder than before. They called it the diminishing returns effect in their reports. Basically, people got tired of the same villain arc playing out week after week. The memes were funny for a minute, but nobody wanted to actually sit through a full game to watch her brick another mid-range jumper while complaining about the refs. One executive reportedly said during a meeting, "We're running a basketball league, not a reality show." Here's where it gets even more interesting. Multiple WNBA insiders are now confirming that other leagues are watching this situation closely. The Athletes Unlimited League supposedly had discussions about bringing Reese in, but backed off after seeing how Unrivaled handled things. Nobody wants to be the next organization dealing with her walking out during crucial moments. The reputation for being unreliable when it matters most is following her everywhere. Even overseas teams that typically throw money at any recognizable name are reportedly hesitant to make offers. But the real tea started spilling when former teammates began speaking up anonymously. One player who shared the court with Reese in Unrivaled said she would literally check her phone during timeouts to see how her social media posts were performing. Another mentioned that Reese would openly discuss her podcast topics during team meetings, asking for content ideas while coaches were trying to draw up plays. The disconnect between her public persona as this fierce competitor and the reality of her priorities became impossible to ignore. The financial implications are staggering too. Reese's reported asking price for Season 2 was north of $250,000, making her one of the highest-paid players in the league. But when executives looked at the return on investment, the math didn't add up. Her jersey sales peaked early, then flatlined. Ticket sales in markets where she played didn't see any significant boost. Meanwhile, players making half her salary were delivering twice the value in terms of actual basketball production and fan engagement. The business case for keeping her simply wasn't there. What really sealed the deal, though, was a meeting that happened in early January 2025. League commissioners from both Unrivaled and the WNBA allegedly had a conference call about the sustainability of controversial marketing in women's sports. The consensus was clear. Building around drama might get quick clicks, but it damages the long-term credibility of the sport. They pointed to how Caitlin Clark's professionalism and pure basketball skill created lasting fan bases, not just viral moments. Speaking of Clark, she's been dealing with her own injury challenges this season, but still maintains more fan support than Reese ever generated through controversy. The contrast couldn't be more obvious. While Reese was creating chaos, players like Sophie Cunningham were quietly building the Indiana Fever into a powerhouse through actual teamwork and dedication. Cunningham's move to Indiana has been nothing but professional, focusing on winning games rather than winning arguments on social media. That's the kind of player Unrivaled wants representing their brand going forward. Someone who shows up when it matters, not someone who FaceTimes in for the celebration. Sources are also revealing that Reese's camp tried to negotiate her way back onto the roster after the initial exclusion. They reportedly offered to take less money, promised better behavior, even suggested a redemption arc storyline for marketing purposes. But Unrivaled's response was ice cold. No thanks. They'd already moved on, signing players who might not generate as many memes but actually show up to play basketball. The message was clear. Talent without professionalism is worthless in this new era of women's sports. The ripple effects are already showing. Young players coming up through college are being warned by their agents to avoid the Reese route of prioritizing social media over actual performance. Coaches are using her situation as a cautionary tale about what happens when you think you're bigger than the team. Even brands that once fought to sponsor her are quietly distancing themselves, not wanting to be associated with someone whose name has become synonymous with unreliability. What's even more damaging is how this affects her WNBA future. The Chicago Sky are reportedly exploring trade options, but finding a team willing to take on her contract and baggage is proving difficult. Teams that need talent are worried about locker room chemistry. Teams with established cultures don't want the disruption. She's become the player everyone acknowledges has skills, but nobody actually wants on their roster. That's a brutal position to be in for someone who just 2 years ago was being called the future of women's basketball. The timing of Unrivaled's decision is particularly savage. By excluding her from Season 2 without any public announcement, they've essentially let her reputation speak for itself. No dramatic firing, no public feud, just a quiet erasure that somehow feels worse than any confrontation. It's the professional equivalent of being ghosted, and everyone in the basketball world knows exactly what it means. You're not worth the trouble anymore. Industry insiders are calling this a watershed moment for women's basketball. For years, the narrative has been that any attention is good attention for a sport fighting for recognition. But Unrivaled just proved that's not true anymore. They're willing to sacrifice short-term buzz for long-term credibility. They'd rather have smaller audiences of actual fans than massive viral moments that don't convert to sustainable growth. It's a mature business decision that signals the sport is finally being run like a real professional league, not a social media experiment. The players still in Unrivaled are reportedly relieved about the decision. Several have privately expressed that the constant drama was exhausting and took away from their ability to just play basketball. One player mentioned that team chemistry improved dramatically once it became clear Reese wouldn't be returning. They could focus on basketball instead of managing personalities and social media narratives. The quality of play has reportedly improved in practices, with players more engaged and collaborative without the constant distraction. Looking ahead, this situation sets a powerful precedent. Future players now know that talent alone won't guarantee you a spot if you can't be a professional teammate. Leagues are willing to take the short-term hit of losing a recognizable name to build something more sustainable. The era of tolerating bad behavior because someone can put up numbers or generate clicks is officially over. Performance on and off the court matters equally now. The most telling sign of how far Reese has fallen? Other controversial players in the league are suddenly on their best behavior. Technical fouls are down across the board in early 2025. Players who used to skip practice for personal reasons are suddenly showing up early. Everyone saw what happened to Reese and realized that nobody is untouchable anymore. The leagues have leverage now, and they're not afraid to use it. As we wrap up this shocking story, one thing is crystal clear. Angel Reese's exile from Unrivaled isn't just about one player or one league. It's about women's basketball finally demanding the same level of professionalism that fans expect from any major sport. The days of drama driving the narrative are over. Now it's about who shows up, who performs, and who can be counted on when it matters most. Reese failed all 3 tests, and now she's paying the price. What do you think about Unrivaled's decision to quietly remove Angel Reese from their league? Was it the right call for the future of women's basketball, or did they just lose one of their biggest draws? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive WNBA coverage. This story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next.